Hello, everyone. We are continuing our What If Asta Had the Millennium puzzle. So, we last left off with Asta defeating the Change Mage and Yuno and Asta doing their fist bump. The night after, this is going to be the night after the ceremony. The night after the ceremony, Asta is dreaming away of doing strength training and all that jazz. He begins to dream about being able to shoot fireballs and, do all that fancy magic stuff. As he is there, he notices a door. He knows that he's in a dream and goes to open the door. He finds himself in a hallway and sees two more doors. One door looks incredibly scary and he doesn't really want to go in there. Sorry, scratch that. He only sees one other door. And it's a very weird looking door. He's never seen it. It's got all kinds of stickers and other things on it and some strange writing on a little wooden sign in front of it. Asta sees something. Asta just knocks on the door. And as soon as he knocks on the door, someone who's about his height but with incredibly spiky and colorful hair. He introduces himself as Yugi Moto. Yugi Moto explains to him, Asta asks, "Who are you?" And Yugi explains that I am the spirit of the Millennium Puzzle. My name is Yugi Moto. I'm the one who resides in the puzzle. I'm the one who helped you to defeat the Chain Mage. Asta is very excited and says thank you to Yugi for helping him defeat the Change Mage, but he doesn't really remember. He goes, yes, the first time you get the powers of the Millennium items, you usually black out the first time you use them. Asta is incredibly thankful to little Yugi and is wondering, how are you in the puzzle? Yugi doesn't really remember how he got in the puzzle, but he knows that he is in the Millennium Puzzle for some reason. Maybe to guide people on how to use it. Asta wants to know what he can do with the Millennium Puzzle and what he can't do with it. Yugi says, well, all of this can wait until the morning. So how about you leave and we'll go do your strength training. Strength training. As morning comes, Asta suddenly wakes up and is ready to go. But he almost forgets his Millennium Puzzle. He ties a rope through the ring and puts it around his neck. Asta going out to the woods and ready to go. He, of course, starts hollering and screaming for Yugi to appear, but he's not anywhere near, so Asta then thinks of closing his eyes. Asta sees the door and opens it and finds Yugi is in there. Asta asks Yugi, what can I do with the puzzle? I'll be 4 if I get this is the, the 2 weeks that he has to train before the exam. Yugi explains what the puzzle can and cannot do at the moment. He says, what we use to defeat the Change Mage is known as a shadow game. You can only use this shadow game once per day. Same thing with being able to summon different monsters. At the moment, Asta can only summon the Flaming Swordsman, Celtic Guardian, Silver Fang, and of course the Dark Magician. But he exclaims that Silver Fang is the weakest out of all the monsters you can summon at the moment on a regular basis. So Asta opens his eyes and tries to summon Silver Fang. He successfully summons Silver Fang to his side and begins to essentially wrestle with Silver Fang. And Silver Fang is capable of slicing small trees about 2 feet in diameter with ease. Asta then asks if he can manifest weapons and armor and shoot long-range attacks. Yugi goes, of course you can, but this takes a lot of out of you. So Asta asks if he can summon a sword. He says yes, you might be able to summon the sword of the Flaming Swordsman. So Asta concentrates incredibly hard and summons the Flaming Swordsman's swords in front of him. And he, of course, can do the famous Salamandrai attack where he shoots a flaming dragon out of the sword and can do other basic fire attacks like shooting fireballs, the Salamandrai, the dragon attack, of course, and being able to cut with the sword and just have a flaming sword. Asta thinks this is the coolest thing ever and says, how many times can he do this? Yugi explains an infinite amount of times. You can summon any weapon that a monster can hold. You just can't. You can only use items that the humanoid monsters can use, like spellcasters, wizards, and fairies. Asta asks if he can summon the staff of the Dark Magician. He goes, sort of, but it will take a lot out of you to just summon his staff. So for the next 2 weeks, Asta does training with Yugi to be able to summon the much more stronger monsters, and he's even able to wear the Flaming Swordsman outfit, which increases his strength, durability, and effects to magic. Especially any other magic that is weak to fire or fire is resistance to. So if someone tries to wrap him up with vines or anything, he can just burn right through them. And if someone uses wind magic on him, he can use that wind magic and increase his fire attacks. So, though we're going to do another time skip, and Yugi tells Asta that he is probably ready to go, but still tells him to only ever use a shadow game if it's a life and death scenario, because that is the only excuse for using a shadow game. Asta understands this, and at this point Yugi is able to do that whole float behind him shadow thing. Asta finishes training up for the day and is ready to meet Yuno in front of the church. Yuno and Asta get ready to leave. Yuno says, I hope you can keep up with me, and Asta goes, no problem, and summons the dark magician's staff and begins to essentially use it like a broomstick and fly, and cannot believe his eyes that Asta is able to fly without even having to use a broomstick by just sitting on this staff thing. And thinks it's kind of weird that he said the dark magician's staff. I summon the dark magician's staff. That's what Asta said as Yuno's thinking about it. He can't think about it too long because Asta has already gotten a head start on him. That's where we're going to end this video off. The next video will be Asta doing the entrance exam, and we're going to figure out how he can get in. Have a good day and all that jazz.